On this week's Carrier Wrap, we speak with Republic Wireless on some of its latest service advances and use of Wi-Fi to compete against established wireless carriers. Well, thanks for joining us in this week's Carrier Wrap. I'm your host, Dan Meyer, Editor-in-Chief here at RCR Wireless News. And this week we're joined by Chris Truong, who's the co-founder and COO of Republic Wireless, to talk a bit about the company. So, hey, Chris, thanks for joining us this week. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Good deal. Let me start off with, for those who don't know much about you guys, maybe a little background on the company, maybe your founding, kind of, what the purpose, the genesis was behind Republic Wireless.
Yeah, thanks a lot. It's, again, a pleasure to be here. So Republic was founded a little less than 5 years ago. It was begun as an experiment to see if we could disrupt the pricing model in wireless, leveraging Wi-Fi first as the primary network. And so we grabbed an LG device, we hacked it up. It was probably about a year and a half, 2 years old. To be honest, it wasn't certified by the carriers. It was your classic, cowboy, story. And Sprint gave us a little wink to go ahead and keep going with that. We appreciate their partnership. And so we launched it thinking we get a couple hundred beta testers on this Wi-Fi first technology. And we opened up the store at midnight. And by 3 a.m., we sold 5,000 phones and had a couple 100,000 people on the waiting list. So we thought we were onto something with this $19 unlimited plan that we had launched with. And at the time, plans were ranging from $125 to $150. So it was pretty disruptive on price. And since then, we've just been working steadily to, scale that offering. We have added more plans and recently a lot more devices. And even a second network now. So we're, I think, ready for prime time and eager to serve a lot more customers.
Yeah, well, that's a great starting story because, again, it's like, you guys did just kind of not necessarily come out of nowhere, but it seemed like it was kind of like, a bunch of guys saying, hey, here's an idea. Let's try this. You got some phones, here's an idea for Wi-Fi first. And interesting to kind of see how that all played out. And again, I remember, covering you guys when you initially launched. It was unique because you had that $19 unlimited plan, which was obviously very cheap. But also that Wi-Fi first part, which I think a lot of us who've been in the industry for a long time were, a little leery of because it was a different kind of way to do things.
Yeah.
I guess as you look back at that part of it, was that the biggest challenge really was the technology aspect? Or what was the biggest challenge for you guys to really, get running there?
Yeah. I think that you're right, that the Wi-Fi calling and making it work at a quality level, that's equal to, if not better than cellular. And in a way that wasn't complicated for users. Mm-hmm. That was really the thing that we were trying to prove if it could be done. And I think most folks told us it couldn't be done, that the quality would never get there. So we began experimenting around with that. And initially we didn't have handover technology, mm-hmm. which, for those who aren't familiar, it's the ability to hand a call between Wi-Fi and cell or back to. And quite honestly, we thought initially, hey, at $19, it's so cheap that, customers would forgive us for, a call dropping now and then. What we learned quickly was when they're coming from Verizon or AT&T, no matter how cheap, they want that quality experience. And so the first technology hurdle we had to solve was how to make handover work. Mm-hmm. And I think over several rounds of development, we were able to get it to a point where, Walt Mossberg at Wall Street Journal, wrote a really nice review saying, these guys have proven that Wi-Fi calling can be as good as cell. And so that's been a lot of our focus. More recently, though, we've tried to think about how to go even a step beyond handover to improve the quality of Wi-Fi calling. And so what we've launched recently that you might have heard about is bonded calling. So think of handover as a binary decision between Wi-Fi or cell, right? So we're Wi-Fi first. So if the two are both available, we're going to choose Wi-Fi. But once Wi-Fi starts to degrade, microwave kicks on, or your kid's watching too much YouTube, then we'll see that signal degrade and then cut you over to cell. And at that point, Wi-Fi is gone. Right. And so that's a binary choice that our algorithms make. What our engineers began to ask is there a way to use both networks simultaneously and in smart ways? And so what bonded calling does is that you're on Wi-Fi, and then as you hit the bumps in Wi-Fi, we'll patch it with literally like bytes of cell, right? Kilobytes of cellular data. Mm-hmm. And that will allow you to stay on Wi-Fi through those potholes in the road, if you will, until your Wi-Fi is solid again. If your Wi-Fi doesn't get back to solid and continues to degrade, then we'll hand you over. And as far as we know, we're the only player in the industry right now that has sort of taken Wi-Fi calling to this next level, which is really merging both networks simultaneously. It's a rare unicorn, as I like to say, not a valuation unicorn, but an operational one, in that it has both improved our quality and reduced our costs, which is a sensitive topic, of course.
Sure.
If we want to keep our prices down, we have to keep our costs down. And so the beauty of bonded calling is, you're just plugging little bits of cellular data, which, in aggregate ends up being cheaper than minutes of cellular that you would, use on Sprint or another carrier. And so anyway, it's a cost win and a quality win. We saw our call quality related trouble tickets, i.e. customers having problems with call quality, decreased by 75% in the first month. So as an operator, you love to see that kind of metric, and I think it's a good sign that the quality is really taking a step up. And so taking a step back, you asked me what's hard and what's the biggest challenge. By the amount of words I've used just now, and the bit of anecdotes I've given you, quality in Wi-Fi is really hard, and we've prided ourselves on attacking that problem so that customers can have a no compromises experience. The other thing I'll just quickly say is I mentioned that simplicity of the user experience was the other key thing. So a lot of this can be achieved via an app, an OTT type of app. But we felt from the beginning that having to have a separate identity, a separate app, a separate user interface, something to configure would just be too many steps. And so we began with a key requirement of making this experience native, meaning we just use the Android phone dialer, right? As you would on any Android device out there. There's no separate, button to click, nothing to do. You just click phone, dial the number, and your calls are running. It happens that we could choose to go over Wi-Fi or cell in the background, but it's really fairly invisible to the user, and that's the bar that we had set from the beginning as well.
Interesting. Yeah, I will say, I'm guessing the technology itself, and obviously you guys have definitely advanced it quite a bit, but I know operators have been working for years and years trying to get that handoff. Even just the basic Wi-Fi to cell and cell to Wi-Fi handoff has always been a challenge. And you guys seem to kind of push through that not easily, obviously, but you guys push that thing pretty quickly considering how old you of a company you were. And then this latest announcement with the bonding, that's, again, it seems like it's taking up another notch. Yeah. It does seem like you guys are advancing a technology that's really kind of challenged the traditional operators out there, which is impressive, again, because of your size. You guys aren't a huge company out there. Obviously, a lot of smart guys. But from the size of your organization there, it's impressive to be able to really seem like progress the technology so far. I'm guessing you're getting some interest, I'm guessing, from other companies that say, how are you guys doing this? And I guess what sort of a reaction are you getting from the industry about what you guys have been able to do?
Well, first of all, thanks for the compliment. And we feel like this is an area that we've been a pioneer on. And I think what actually you didn't ask, but I think what occurred to me to explain what drives it in our philosophy is necessity breeds invention, right? Sure. So as a self-funded startup, we only have one Series A in the company from 2011. And we really fund the business out of our own cash flows. You have that pressure and that necessity driving you to figure out both the cost and the quality side of the equation. And so that's bred invention. I think that, from the other players that are doing or trying to do Wi-Fi calling, if you think about it, a lot of them are the big carriers.
Yeah.
And I think naturally their business model incentive is to go sell first. They don't have as much economic motive, right, to go over Wi-Fi. So it's sort of a backup, plug the holes type of technology for them. Whereas for us, it's critical to make it primary. Even a Google Fi, we love what they're doing in the market. We know them well. We're huge fans of Fi. We think they're kind of, partners on the same mission, if you will. But they have Google's balance sheet, right? And so we would wish to have that as a. But that allows them, I think, a little more flexibility to innovate more on the cellular side, which is a little more costly, I think, from an economic standpoint. So with their U.S. cellular announcement recently, demonstrating, a lot of innovation on the making multiple cellular networks work, whereas our motive is to make Wi-Fi work and work as well as possible. In terms of the reaction of players in the space, yeah, I think your gut is right that we've gotten a lot of interest from be it MSOs or the actual cellular operators,
Mm-hmm.
internet companies. A lot of folks being interested in learning more about how we achieve this, and there's a lot of partnership interest right now as well. And we're considering, whether to do some partnerships and share our technology with some other players so that have a similar mindset to, unlock value for the customer.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So I guess maybe talk a bit about, the business model, because it does seem like, again, the wireless space, the cellular space is such a competitive market out there. And there have been, over the years, so many various MVNOs or whatever you want to call them have come up and tried different things. And it's just been such a cutthroat industry that it's so hard to eke out an existence in it. But you guys have been able to do this now for, like you said, since 5-6 years now, with very little, VC funding, really. So what kind of fund your own business model? I guess what's been the challenge of that, or what's the key to you guys being able to do that? Because again, you do rely a bit on a larger carrier to an extent with Sprint for now and some other carrier as well. But how have you guys been able to kind of keep this going where others have kind of crashed and burned?
Yeah, I used to be in venture capital at Technology Crossover Ventures, and so I looked at investing in MVNOs, and if you look at the history of MVNOs, it's actually not a great investment.
It's fun to cover, but it's not a good investment.
I mean, there's been some pretty massive flameouts over the years. Oh, yeah. Even large companies with a lot of assets like a Disney, right? There was a Disney MVNO for a while. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely a challenging business model if you are, I think, a pure marketing company, right? So if you're approaching, trying to compete in wireless just with a segment focus and a marketing differentiation, I think that's really tough. Mm-hmm. It can be done, but our philosophy was let's not be really defined as an MVNO. Let's, who we are is we're software guys. I mean, if I showed you the roster of our engineers, I think maybe one of them has any telecom experience, right? So these are, software engineers that approach the problem differently. Mm-hmm. And we just like to say we happen to use the MVNO agreement as a means to an end, but we think of ourselves as a software company, and our differentiation is on the software, side of the puzzle. And that's really, I think, been the critical fundamental difference is we didn't just approach it trying to resell someone else's stuff, and adding incremental value around it. We try to really leverage other carriers, but really, differentiate our value through our own IP, through our own technology. And that's what's manifested in the Wi-Fi calling. That's really just chapter one as well. Mm-hmm. So what we're not known for yet, and I hope that if we have another interview in 6 months or definitely 12 months, there'll be 2 or 3, if not 5 new features, I'll call them, okay, that are software kind of differentiated features that a mobile carrier typically wouldn't roll out. They would rely on an OTT app for those type of experiences. And you'll see us bring those to life, mostly natively in the natural Android interface. And so we'll continue to differentiate ourselves as a software company.
Got it. And obviously, it does seem like that the Android ecosystem has really been key to kind of what you guys have been able to do. I mean, obviously, you guys came around about the time when smartphones really started taking off, and obviously the Android OS came out and really seemed to push that open architecture as opposed to the other guy out there. But I'm guessing that the handset part of it is a pretty important aspect for you guys. And obviously, with the recent announcement about bringing more devices on, again, consumers usually shop maybe phones first and pricing second. So it does seem like being able to have a broader selection of phones and Android phones has been, I'm guessing, a pretty important part for you guys to kind of continue the growth curve, really.
Yeah, absolutely. We love our original partner, Motorola, and they have, particularly in the value tiers, built tremendous phones that I think are relatively, untouched from the Moto G, for example. What you get for that price is really amazing. But the number one feedback that we heard from our customers, both existing customers and prospects in our buy flow, has been we need more devices. And so whether it's just a brand orientation, like I haven't used a Motorola phone for a while and I want to use a Samsung or something, or a price point spec kind of orientation, regardless, that was far and away the number one feedback. And so we've been working hard the last few years to re-architect our technology in a way that could extend to more devices. To dive a little bit deeper into that, when we began, we were, as I said, hacking an LG device, getting deep into the ROM of the phone to make our experience native. Of course, we could have just built an app, but we would have had an OTT like experience, and we had a higher bar. And so, so over the years, though, we've been reducing our footprint of code on the device, getting more and more out of the ROM.
Mm-hmm.
So what we were excited to be able to do as a breakthrough, actually late last year, manifesting this summer when we launch all the devices in July, is now we're completely out of the ROM. And that's huge, because that means we can now extend across, a very large footprint of devices.
Mm-hmm.
So right now our solution only requires a SIM card and an app, and then you're off and running. All the goodness lies in the cloud, and the SIM and the app trigger that connection to the server in the cloud, and allows you to have this full native experience without us modifying the guts of the phone. And so this summer we'll be launching, as you might have seen, a very full portfolio of Samsung devices. So the J3, the S6, the S7,
Mm-hmm.
the S7 Edge. We'll also be launching both Nexus devices, from Huawei and LG, and we'll continue to have our Motorola footprint. And that's really just the beginning. We're going to continue to add to that portfolio over the months here. And so we think that the market reception should be really good, because all the data we're seeing says, if you could just give me a broader selection of devices, I will become a customer. So we're hoping folks live up to that, and we see a nice spike in growth coming up here.
Sure. I guess pulling out of the ROM then, has that, opened up more of the device partnerships for you guys? Has that been kind of a key part of that? Because again, like you said, you were initially somewhat limited in the device front, and now it's definitely kind of spread open quite a bit. I guess, has that helped? And I guess, what's the relationship like with the device guys out there?
So it's definitely helped in that it's reduced the engineering work that they have to do to partner with us.
Okay.
So Motorola had to spend quite a lot of investment to code side by side with us to bring to life the solution. Now that we're out of the ROM, it's really very minimal effort to integrate with us, and as a result, we were able to add all these additional OEMs. And really, I think now we have relationships with the entire, not every single player in the ecosystem, but the ones, the big guys that matter from a market share standpoint. So it's been tremendous, and again, not a lot of work for those OEMs to now partner with us as well. Our CFO likes it, because previously we were doing custom ROMs, therefore custom units, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so Motorola would be building phones just for us. We would have to order and commit inventory, to these custom SKUs. Now we can, purchase sort of a generic SKU, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
and that really helps the balance sheet. And so we're not holding this for public specific inventory, and so that's been fantastic for us as well.
Interesting. Now, I guess, have there been any sort of back office kind of challenges in this? Because it always seems like when the MVNO market kind of came along, that was always a big challenge for those guys, was, how do they handle, customer care and provisioning and, getting devices out there. It seems like there's always so many layers to this that seem to kind of trip people up. I guess for you guys, how have you been able to kind of, tackle that aspect of the business? Yeah,
clearly you've been around the industry a while. It is sort of the not very often talked about. But
it's the ugly part of the business.
Yeah, I mean, there's an MVNO I know recently that is struggling because of challenges in the back office, and so having kind of seen some of those scary movies, if you will, about the back office from prior lives, like when I was a VC, we began day one orienting around having control of that element. So we invested early on for scalability in our back office, and we built our own OSS BSS. We call it Stratus.
Mm-hmm.
Not something we sell, but it's just an internal name for our systems. And we rely on world-class sort of infrastructure, whether it be Amazon or SoftLayer and Zora for billing and other services. But we really control the core of the back office ourselves, and that's allowed us to be really nimble. But also, frankly, it's reduced our costs. We don't have these giant licenses that we have to pay to an Oracle or an Amdocs or something
Mm-hmm.
like that. And thankfully, the combination of that agility and low cost approach has served us well. So we haven't had back office issues like a lot of MVNOs have had historically. Thankfully, I guess we're learning from their mistakes, if you will.
Yeah, and again, it sounds like you guys are very much of a kind of like a web-based business, like a web-based business model too. So you guys are kind of coming at this not from a legacy infrastructure system where you've got a bunch of machines and boxes somewhere, and it's something you guys can really come at this Again, the timing of your launch, I think, too, kind of really segued nicely with a lot, kind of a lot of the web stuff that came along, cloud services as well. So
Yes.
timing was great for you guys too.
No, absolutely. We've leveraged the goodness of the internet and the cloudification of a lot of infrastructure to our benefit. So it's, I guess, like many startups, it's a good time to and a much less capital intensive time to get going with something new. And thankfully we took the right approaches there, and so our back office is a strength, not a limiter for us. And again, if you're starting day one, you wouldn't really think about that as much, right? But it's the less sexy, super important, part of the business that, in many ways, it's equally vital as any of the Wi-Fi calling aspects.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's one of those things that kind of, again, trips up a lot of people who don't really understand what they need to do. I mean, it's obviously, hey, I want to be a wireless carrier. That'd be great, but you don't think about all the customer service calls and provisioning aspects and distribution and things like that. I mean, it's such a big process. But yeah, if you don't think about that first, that could be a big headache down the road, especially as you grow too. If you're a small company, it's one thing, but as you get traction, you got to be ready for that. Yeah,
no, we often joke around, but it's pretty true. Wi-Fi calling comes third around here. You have to be able to build and activate, first, right, before Wi-Fi can be made. And so, those are the big hurdles that you have to knock out, and you have a great team doing that.
Sure. And what about, I guess, on the marketing aspect of things? I mean, obviously, you guys, again, aren't a hugely, we don't see you advertising for at halftime of Super Bowl and stuff like that. Obviously, it's a much smaller company there. I guess, how do you tackle the marketing challenges in an industry that is just so, marketing driven? I mean, you can't, turn on TV or anything without seeing a wireless ad somewhere.
Yeah. So there was early on another kind of, threshold bar that we were aiming for was not just disruptive value, but remarkable value. And we chose that term very purposefully because it spoke to our business model. So we needed to deliver enough value, either in the cost savings or the experience differentiation that I alluded to is going to come more and more here, so that you would, that it would be worthy of remark, right? That you would tell your friends and family about Republic, because day one we knew that, especially at that low price point of $19, and our ARPUs continue to be in that sort of range today. There's just not a lot of money for marketing, right? We'll never compete with the billions of dollars spent on advertising. So we had to really build enough value that customers would talk about it, and to add some data to that. In any given month, 65 to 80% of our customers that are joining us, when we survey them, they'll tell us they came from referral.
Wow.
So, and we have a net promoter score of 60, which is roughly double wireless carriers. I think T-Mobile is at 35, and I think Sprint's now positive again, but for a while they were actually negative on that scale. And so you really using the same network, right, as us. So I think just trying to speak to how strong that net promoter dynamic is with us, and that's yielded a really good referral dynamic. And our challenge is, how do we foster and feed that referral engine even more, beyond just delivering remarkable value? Can we provide incentives or gamification, different ways to spark that behavior? Another thing that is why we're focused on adding differentiating experiences beyond Wi-Fi calling this year, and definitely next year in particular, is so that when you're at a cocktail party, there's a reason to take out your phone and say, hey, check this out. Check out what my Republic phone can do, not just check out how much it saves me, right? The bill. And so that's really our focus, is really a product as marketing strategy. And hopefully that will continue to yield great referral activity. Of course, we'll augment that with an increasing level of ad spend as well. But to date, it's been very minimal. And, we'll kind of, build that on over time. It's a new learning curve for us, frankly. We haven't spent millions of dollars on advertising. At some point we'll do that, but it's another process we have to learn.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like you guys are taking a very measured approach to all this, not overstretching any of your boundaries there, which seems to happen to a lot of companies. They get too excited, and next thing you know, they've overstretched their resources, and we know what happens after that. So it's like a very measured approach there.
Yeah. I guess it's more in vogue now to say this, but it's always been our mantra. We believe in responsible growth. Yeah. So we've had a pretty good rocket ship on growth over the last 5 years, over 150% annual growth rate year over year, with limited marketing. But we've always, to your point, looked at it as, responsible growth. So we weren't pouring in tens of millions of advertising or, offering, subsidized services or anything like that. And I think, the investor community is, I think now more and more appreciating folks that have that responsible growth mentality. And actually, to further support that, I'm really excited to share. We don't talk about this often, but we are now profitable. In Q1, we crossed over that threshold. It's really exciting as an operator to see growth and profitability in less than 5 years total time. So.
That's awesome. Hey, there's some established carriers out there who are struggling for profitability. So yeah, for you guys to be able to do it so quickly, that's impressive. I mean, that's got to be, again, in a competitive market like this, to be able to do that is saying something. So it's congratulations on that.
Yeah, well, let it be an encouragement to other startups and challengers as well. As despite the bad history on MVNOs surviving, it can be done. Hopefully we can inspire some others to enter the market and challenge the big guys. Because really, you could talk about all the different players doing Wi-Fi related calling, and people often try to get us to compare ourselves to them. And our mentality is really we're all kind of in the same trench, kind of fighting the bigger war, if you will.
Yeah.
And so,
I mean, I've talked to a lot of those companies, and yeah, they all seem to. You guys aren't very. There's no negativity about the whole situation. Everybody's kind of positive, and like you said, everybody seems, like you said, focused on the bigger guys and not really on each other, because you guys all have a little niche of the market and doing your own thing. So it is definitely different mentality out there amongst the Wi-Fi first guys. The Wi-Fi, people use Wi-Fi for their calling plans.
Yeah, if we were trying to eat each other's market share, I think we would all go down in flames. So, it's really more about taking market share from the biggest players in the market who I think, frankly, we could, disrupt the most from a price and experience standpoint.
Yeah, and I think for us in the media, at least, it's always good to see some new blood in the industry. I mean, for a while there was always 6 nationwide carriers, a lot of strong regional guys, and it's kind of gotten smaller and smaller. So we like to see, new blood out there is always fun for us, at least in the media side of things. For my own little viewpoint there, but it's good to see you guys out there being very aggressive as well. So it's good to see.
Yeah, no, we're hopefully a champion for the little guy. So.
That sounds perfect. Hey, Chris, we definitely appreciate the great insight today. Obviously, you guys got some great success there. Again, going over more than 5 years now, and again, profitability. It's always a good sign as well. So that sounds good. But we definitely appreciate the great insight and information today, and hopefully we'll again touch base again soon. Obviously, like you said, you got some more stuff coming out later this year, some more information. So we'll hopefully touch base then. And but again, thanks so much for the time today. Well, thanks for watching this week's show, and make sure to check us out again next week when we are scheduled to speak with Allianz Science and Technology about spectrum challenges facing the mobile telecom space.